The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
All right, everybody ready for round 3 in the Tournament of Champions? Ring around the Jabroni, the hottest wrestling debate show there is. How is everyone tonight?
Stellar.
Geared up and ready.
All right.
Terrified.
Of course, everybody's got 2 minutes to answer questions. Everybody will take turns answering a question first. Everybody will have a chance to promote what they got going on. With that, James, we'll let you promote first. What do you got going on?
So we got the All Effin' Wrestling Show. We are rebranded. We're no longer called just another Effin' podcast. We're the All Effin' Wrestling Show Sundays. We have Wrestling with the Paranormal on Saturdays, the Magic of Wrestling on Saturdays with Liam. And I am going to soon be the next world champion of AFW on the Mayhem brand because I'm the JFB and I'm the ace of the place.
Fantastic. All right, Luke, you will get to answer the question first. Are you ready?
Born ready. Let's do it.
Is Sami Zayn and the Bloodline the best story in wrestling right now? Yes or no?
I'm going to say yes, because what we're seeing right now with Sami Zayn and the Bloodline is levels of dynamic that none of us would have expected. Let's look at Sami Zayn's 2022, right? He started the year mucking about with Johnny Knoxville and arguably one of the best WrestleMania matches of the weekend. It's just so the laughter, the giggles, everything, right? And remember, this is the same Sami Zayn from Ring of Honor and NXT that we know is so talented and so rich and so invested. But Sami Zayn knows how to tell a story. And what he's done with the Bloodline, and you can go back through history and his connections and his like little things that involvement with Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, is that the dynamic is there. He is the jester. He is the tag along friend that is now integral to the Bloodline. But now we're in a position now that Solo Sikoa is in the main roster. Whatever you feel about that is another thing. But people are questioning: will Sami be the one to turn babyface, and they will then challenge Roman for head on and be the first to split? We're in 2 minds, because whether he splits, we get the old Sami Zayn back, which will be fantastic. But he doesn't need to, because he's still he's the insurance policy that, Jimmy J and Roman can't afford to be beaten. Sami Zayn can afford to be clowning around and taking wins. So I would say yes is the best storyline right now. It has so many levels. We've still got so much mileage to go.
Very good points. DMC Grizzle, agree? Disagree?
I mean, I think Hook and Action Bronson actually being real life friends is clearly the most interesting wrestling story at the moment. But
what happened to Hookhausen? Hookhausen was the best.
Well, that's the thing. Like, Danhausen has an ongoing storyline with just about everyone on the roster. Danhausen is the best story. No, I think it is the best story, especially with all of the confusion surrounding AEW right now, and whether or not what's going on is a shooty work or a worky shooty shoot, but kind of a work, but kind of shooty. And then at the same time, we don't really know what's going on with MJF and the firm yet, and like how that's all going to unfold. So as of now, yes, this is the best storyline, but keep your eyes peeled for what MJF is up to, because I think when all that comes to fruition, it's going to be pretty cool.
JFB.
Stole my thunder.
The travesties of going last.
I could never.
Here we go, though. Here we go. Okay, so is it the best storyline in wrestling? It has to be, because AEW can't sell, they tell nice, long-winded stories, so they do that beautifully. But short-term stories like little novellas and like pamphlets on great Jewish athletes of all time, nothing. A couple pages, that's it. I mean, it's absolutely the most insane and ridiculous thing what AEW is unable to do. But Roman Reigns, if it wasn't for Sami Zayn, the whole Roman Reigns thing would just be, it's just another faction WWE has that they're going to promote. It adds an extra depth to it. You know, it makes it more full. It makes it three-dimensional. It gives it more character. Having this crazy Canadian who's not Samoan and is an honorary Uce because he got a t-shirt. Like when Roman gave him that t-shirt, I actually was like, yeah, he's honorary Uce. Like I got totally invested in it. You know, I mean, the House of Black should be a great story. The Dark Order should be a good story. Nowhere near the Bloodline in Sami Zayn. Absolutely one of the best storylines happening right now in wrestling today.
Greatest faction for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So before we go to the points, we'll get to a couple comments here. John Perry is watching. Shout out to John. KO would have been a good part of the Bloodline. Also, wondering if we're going to see the White Rabbit tonight. We'll see.
I have to pull it at some point. Have to. Like tonight is the call that's pointing to the arena. But again, this is WWE logic. Are they just going to roll it onto the pay-per-view? Is Triple H going to actually give us the result tonight? It's but what they're doing digitally and with the marketing is stellar, because they're really thinking outside of the creative box of how can we lead people on and get people thinking as to what could be, and obviously the mixed messages of, you know, the Hangman, the running of the rabbit. So Vince McMahon is going to come back next week. That's what it's leading to.
The White Rabbit, damn it.
Adam Page shows up in WWE.
Brian also in our comments saying, "Oh my God, Daniel's still alive." Yes, Daniel is still with us.
I'm around.
Likes the haircut,
Oh, stop.
but misses the mullet.
Well, don't. We all miss the mullet. I think I have a picture of the mullet somewhere here. Here, just hang tight. I'll look that up while we're doing stuff.
But as far as points, Luke started out strong, so we'll give a point to Luke.
Well
And
earned.
JFB, of course, getting a point as well. All right. Daniel, you are first to answer question 2. Are you ready?
Sweet. Let's go.
Question 2. Speaking of the White Rabbit, Triple H on the Ring Wrestling Show podcast said the White Rabbit is somebody that nobody is talking about right now. If it's not Bray Wyatt, who is it?
Look, let me say this about Bray Wyatt, and I am a huge fan of Bray Wyatt. I am 100% sick of wondering when Bray Wyatt is going to show up. And he's arguably my favorite character in wrestling, or at least, I mean, aside from Danhausen, of course. But if it's not him, I've been racking my brain on who it could possibly be, and I just can't figure it out. I can't figure it out if it's an AEW, you know, defector or something like. If it was Jonathan Gresham, that'd be pretty cool. Although I don't think that's what they have lined up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and give you an answer of I don't know. And my main frustration is just I'm sick of wondering about what's up with Bray. Just figure it out. Give me my weirdo back. Give me my psycho murder clown back, and everything will be all right with the world.
And of course, just to frustrate you, Brian, of course, in the comments, Bray is retired.
Thank you very much, Brian.
JFB, what do you think?
Swear you're not on the
Bray
show.
Wyatt is going to be okay. Whether the White Rabbit is him or not, he's going to be okay. He's going to people's weddings. He's hanging out on film sets. He's hanging out in New York City. He's buying bagels. He's getting a Beck. He's going to be okay. It ain't Bray Wyatt. If you read and watch the video promos, they talk about demon. If you spell out the Hangman thing, it says demon. That's Finn Balor. If you look at Patricide, that's Dominic Mysterio, who's now, thanks to Rhea Ripley, is a man. There we go. There's the mullet.
There's the mullet.
That is so sweet. I could fall asleep with that mullet. Just curl up and next to it. So you look at these clues, it has to be Edge, but maybe it's not Edge. Maybe it's someone from Edge's past or someone close to Edge, but it has to do with Edge. I think it's Edge. I don't think it's Bray Wyatt. I think, in all honesty, if Bray Wyatt does show up in WWE, it's just going to show up. There's going to be he's just going to come, lights are going to go, lights are going to come back out, and then he's going to be there. That's how they're going to do it. That's the only way you can bring him back with that kind of impact and that kind of oomph, is just have him come back. Screw this video package, and screw it all. Just have them show up out of the dark. There you go.
I think it'd be great for somebody else to have this, but if you bring him back with this, it's kind of weak to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Luke, what do you think?
I think it would be ridiculous to think it would be Edge. I think as much as the logic does kind of make sense, considering he gave me all the pops of the blooming night, singing Metalingus in front of 60,000 people. That will always stay with me. But considering he was only just on the last show and repub, like, it just doesn't work for me. But let me put this to you. We are in this Triple H era of anything can happen. And we're in 2020 to Cody Rhodes, who went off, the prodigal son who went off and started his own company, came home to one of the biggest pops he'll ever experience and had a 5-star match for AEW and WWE. Maybe Triple H is calling a bluff and it is somebody we're not talking about. But is that not what wrestling's all about? That excitement of not knowing who it could be and not even having a clue, and we get so sucked into wrestling reports these days of such and such has been seen, such and such has been seen, and these names, and having the surprise that absolutely nobody we've spoken about is one of the best wrestling feelings in the world, and especially in WWE, it hasn't really been seen for a very long time. I think since John Cena came back Money in the Bank last year was the last time we had a oh my god moment. So as much as I'd love for it to be Bray Wyatt, as the same as Daniel, I love Bray Wyatt. I was so sucked into the lore and the narrative. Surprise me. Give me something new. Give me something we aren't even talking about that's going to keep us talking for weeks on end, and that's going to keep us sucked in to anything. But
it's Sid.
I'm here for surprise.
It's got to be Sid.
It's Sid. It's always Sid.
Delicious. Well, it can't because softball season's still happening right now.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, he is.
No chance he's coming back.
The clown man. It's Doink the Clown.
Excellent point.
All right, so a couple comments before we get to the points. Dennis, my man DMC, he's
my man DDJ.
He's scouting. He's in the finals, so he's scouting his competition here tonight.
Sweat.
A couple other comments with guesses. People saying it could be Undertaker, the Demon Kane, or maybe Beth Phoenix to come back and help Edge.
Oh, Demon Kane, that would be so deaf on their part.
He's too busy ruining Nashville. He's too busy ruining Tennessee with his politics. He doesn't have time to do that.
So points, we'll go Luke with another point, coming back with the, good points of, we're missing the, the surprise element. Very good. A lot of people do miss the surprise element. And I think we'll go Grizzle here on the other point here.
Got my lucky rock right here. I was holding it right when you said that.
All right. So, Daniel, your promo time. What do you got going on? What do you want to promote?
So I just filmed a series of it's a video game tournament between me and a bunch of my friends, and I'm about to start the incredibly daunting task of learning how to edit all of it. I have hired someone to help me that is really good at it, so I will be responsible for. We also got that guy. Mm-hmm. There he is. Stay tuned, JFB. But it's gonna be really cool. We're gonna launch a whole new YouTube channel about musicians that play video games, and that's the premise of the whole channel. Lots of multiplayer stuff. The first series is gonna be based around multiverses because I'm really excited to see what they do with that game in the next year. We'll probably end up playing some Mario Kart because that is the ultimate super gauntlet of you want to throw down, type thing. We did just find out that GoldenEye is going to be remastered and re-released soon, so we're going to be everyone's happy about that. Hopefully they'll get their shit together with the online play, but that is always kind of the X factor when it comes to Nintendo and the Switch. So lots of video game content coming from your homies here at our new channel, which will be called Playing Out, and from the Buckle Bomb Entertainment Enterprises.
Sweet. Fantastic. All right, JFP, are you ready to go first on this one?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
JR thinks there will be less swearing in AEW coming up. It's not necessary and shows a lack of creativity. Do you agree on both of those thoughts?
Absolutely not. F this. Are you kidding me? JR comes from a time when we were just before World War II. This man went to high school with Moses. I think he hung out with the Maccabees, if I'm not mistaken. This guy is old as dirt. Listen, swearing is a necessity. I've read articles that highly intelligent people love to swear. It's not a lack of creativity. If anything, it adds an extra depth to it. I mean, calling somebody an asshole, or I mean, it's still a diss. It's still a diss. I don't think in the least. I think it's JR showing his age. I think it's JR showing his inability to further with the times that's happening. And you can get creative. I mean, you can get super creative. I mean, my favorite one is F twat. I love that. It's my favorite. I call it people all the time. It's one of my favorite go-tos, so that's what I go with.
Very good, Luke.
Let's take a step back with this question. I think this was swearing in wrestling, especially in the last few months. At one point we were talking about Monday Night Raw going back to TV 14, and people were getting the attitude era and nostalgia. But when you look at 96 to 2001 and the use of swearing and explicit material, it was shock factor. It was just the culture. It was what we were seeing in television. It was just that was the late 90s. That was the way things were. So what we're seeing in swearing nowadays is that it hits the spot. Go back to MJF's promo against Tony Khan just after Double or Nothing, and he's calling him a fucking mark, and he's really going for him, and that's impactful swearing. That isn't swearing to annoy the FCC or annoy Ofcom or annoy any regulatory board. That's swearing that is going to capture wrestling fans' attention to what and sort of takes us into the level of realism and maybe again working ourselves into a shoot.
Yeah.
So I think more swearing does show a lack of creativity because you're just saying it for the shock factor, and then you become desensitized and it doesn't mean anything. So actually, whilst I see that JR does come from the Jim Crockett days of NWA, WCW, Attitude Era, and he has been through those times, I do think there is some level of truth in that less swearing, having it more impactful and more quality over quantity of use of swearing and explicit language actually makes us listen and actually makes us pay attention, and actually adds an extra value to all those promos, which otherwise would just be okay. That's fine, and especially in All Elite where they know how to do an impactful promo, they know how to capture people's attention, and sometimes it pays MJF, other times it's not, and it's Marina Shafir on Dark Elevation the other week. Like it's it can be a thing, but it's about quality over quantity.
Very good.
Yeah,
Daniel.
Well, I do think that there's an element of old man JR just keeping it 100 and being a little old man salty. Let's think about the person who's saying this. I mean, this is a person that could describe the back of a box of macaroni and cheese and have you excited for dinner, and like in the most ultimate way possible. So I mean, maybe he's kind of saying like, take, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And we all know JR can take any phrase and make it just sound the best that you've ever heard those two words saying in your life. Like, for example, by God. I'm from the South. I've been hearing people say by God and not listen. Hey, JR does it the best. So I think that there's something to be said for that. And also, like, kind of when AEW first started and they were cursing and they were doing the TV 14 things that we're not used to because we've been watching the WWE for the last 20 years, people would say the word shit and then pause, and the whole crowd would go, "Ooh, he said it on TV," and that was kind of cool every once in a while. But it is getting tired. Like, it's okay to use those words, but when you say, "I think it's shit," silence, let the word shit sit in everyone's mind for a second, and that be the ultimate point of what you said, not like the meat of your words. I guess for lack of a better term. So
Mhm.
I think he's really just saying, like, don't go out there and just say a curse word and go, look at me, I'm awesome and everything like that. I think Luke's right. You know, the way that MJF does it is like it's impactful and it flows. And of course, you would expect that from one of the best talkers in the business.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, a little more emphasis on what you're saying and how you're saying it instead of just taking the easy route and throwing a few curse words in there.
Very good. Yeah, I think we're good for points. I think we're going JFP and Daniel on this one. Very good answer. Very good answers all around. Though if I can give a point to everybody, I would. But that's not how the show works.
You can, Sarah. You can do that. You have the power.
I could, but we're not. So halfway through here, we have at a three-way tie. So last three questions. We're gonna make it close here. Luke, are you ready to go first on question 4?
I suppose I better try and hang on to my lead here.
On the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy podcast, Matt talks about making cage matches better. Says going out the door is a very anticlimactic way for the match to end and should be eliminated. Do you agree with that statement or disagree?
I've spoken about this before, about the good old-fashioned way of a steel cage match ending by escaping. I miss the days of a good old escape spot where, you know, there are times where you don't know whether they're going to go and climb and go over the top, and you know they're going to hit the floor first. On you got to. I'll go back to Cactus against Triple H. Jack hit the floor first, just as Triple H was climbing out the door, and with China, I think that was SummerSlam 97. I'm going to say 97. It's moments like that which escaping through the door, escaping over the top, it adds to that level of drama that they are confined into these 4 steel cage walls and they don't know what they're going to do. It's so much more exciting than just seeing a basic pinfall or submission, because you're making the cage itself mute and not actually adding it. It's a similar argument can be made for Hell in a Cell as well, where if you're not using the environment around you, then what is it for? Mm-hmm. So I do see that, but I think what we see, the quality of steel cage matches these days are getting so more technical. For a concept that's been around for decades, it's like trying to reinvent the wheel. Is that yes, there's only so much you can do, especially when they are redesigning the cages themselves so that they are more adaptable. I mean, gone are the days of the blue cage. There's now steel, and obviously we've seen that branch out into war games as well. And you know
the death trap blue cage.
Yeah,
God, I missed the blue cage.
And blood and guts and sort of the use of a caged match stipulation, how it can work. So whether I think it should be eliminated, no. I think there is definitely a drama and a finish within that can either be a danish or a really dramatic ending where a slimy heel can just about get out with, you know, by the skin of his teeth. I'll go back to JBL. Was it No Way Out 2005? The barbed wire steel cage up where he snuck out absolutely nowhere underneath the ring against the Big Show. So things like that are just so creative and just they're not pin them inside the ring. I just find it lame. So yes, keep the escape mode on and keep the doors. It's when it's done right, it's done beautifully.
Daniel?
We need the door. The door is necessary for heel heat, simply enough. You know, you need to have that option of an easy way to get people into the ring, say, for example, and an easy way for someone to orchestrate things, you know, behind the scenes, you know, to let the heel out easily. That being said, I think you should focus more on making ladder matches more interesting. And because while we have seen some very awesome ladder matches lately, especially in AEW, we all know it's going to happen. It's going to be 10 or 15 minutes of going up the ladder. Is he going to make it up? Is he going to make it down? And you know, that's the whole shtick around the ladder match. Although I will say that everyone has become incredibly creative with their ladder spots in the last 2 years. Let's not, you know, look past that. But it's almost the same thing with the steel cage too. Like if you're only going to be able to escape, like how many times are we going to have those spots where your leg's hanging off or you're almost going to go over, where that's the whole match. Like maybe we can introduce some sort of, time limit where you can't escape through the door until 30 minutes into a match or whatever it is. There's definitely ways around it. So I do agree that there's always room for improvement, but I do think that the door is necessary for certain angles. You just don't always have to use it.
JFB.
A door works both ways. You can go in the door, you can go out. That's how a door works. It's not one of those doors where you go in and it's all mayhem and you can't get out. It doesn't work that way. I remember the Von Erichs getting their head slammed in the steel cage against the Freebirds, which cost Terry Von Erich a title shot with Dusty. The door is there for a purpose. It's there to create mayhem. It's there to create this ability that, the heel can just saunter out of it after he beats the living hell out of the face. He can slide and saunter out and blow kisses to the crowd, and the crowd's going to start booing. Matt, you want to make steel cages more interesting? Here's how you do it: rabid dogs at the door. That'll make you think twice about going.
Not Kennel from Hell. We are not going back to Kennel from Hell.
Electrify the cage. Make it spark. So when they hit the cage, it sparks up.
Halloween Havoc 89. Let's go
there
back
you go.
to
that. That creates mayhem. You want to make ladder matches more better? Put it on an island in a water filled with sharks and alligators. That's what you do. I mean, it's getting to the point now where you almost have to make it like the Hunger Games in order to get people to go, wow, I've never seen anything like that before in my entire life. This is the most amazing cage match I've ever seen. I mean,
Somewhere Vince Russo's taking notes right now.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Yeah, Vince, I get 15% of your cut from whatever you sell to WWE. I get a 15% cut. But
what are you saying, bro? I'll put it on a poll, bro. I'll put a ladder match on a poll, bro. That is the very future of wrestling, bro.
It's going to be a steel cage on a pole in a steel cage match. That's how you do it. Layers, like a cake, like a birthday cake. Layers. So yes,
but underground.
All right. I think for points on this one, just because the examples was not only why it's good, but to make it better, I think we're going Daniel and James on this one for points.
Whoa. Intense.
All right, Daniel, are you ready to answer question 5?
I'm ready.
Actually, but first we got Luke. Your time for promo. What do you got to promote for us?
I've got nothing to. I'm the wrestling journeyman here. I mean, I appear with what do I do? I do TRWC. I do the tailgate party. I do that on a Friday night. I appear on Buckle Bomb Entertainment now and again, not as much as I used to, but I'm still around. I'm available for hire. Please hire me.
He's got kids.
All right.
Luke Walsh for hire.
For hire.
Yeah.
For this question, just to add a little layer of hardness to it, you can only give one answer with this question. Saraya, formerly known as Paige, is not medically cleared right now for in-ring action. Assuming she's there to only be a manager, who would be her best client? One answer only.
Did I have to be currently in AEW? Can we put somebody in there?
AEW or free agent?
Okay.
Ooh.
Coming at you with the hard questions.
So, all right. One. Danhausen. No, I'm kidding. I think I'm going to go Jade Cargill. And I'm going to say double down on the fact that she's already undefeated and has this crazy streak. And let Saraya come in and kind of give her more creative, like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if credibility is the right word, but start steering her in a direction to where she's getting over more as a baby face. Drop the baddies thing and make the person that she loses to your next ultimate heel. That's my answer.
JFB.
Interessante. He's bringing the heat. I'm going to go with Anna Jay because I think Anna Jay is not as good as a heel as she is as a face. There's just something about her that just does not click as a bad girl. She doesn't look like a bad girl. She doesn't look like any of the bad girls I've ever dated, and I've dated a whole bunch of them. She doesn't look, she looks like that girl next door, and I think that's what Saraya can do is give her that legitimate, get her away from Dark Order, give her a real face run with a real chance to win a championship, be it the TBS or the AEW Women's Championship. I think that'd be perfect. I think it's Anna Jay all the way. And that even rhymes. So right there.
Luke.
I would put her with her because I think there's obviously connections with Ember Moon and Paige back in NXT. I can see certainly a heel run for Athena where Saraya is that mouthpiece, and we have, yes, while we may have Vicky Guerrero as a heel manager on the women's side, let's have another one. Let's have somebody who's good on the stick and somebody who's really got talent to show and to shine. And whilst it's unfortunate she's not yet cleared for in-ring action, let's say that'll be a short-term thing. Let her push Athena towards the TBS or the world title and have a mouthpiece with her. I think that'll be interesting storytelling.
Yeah, I can see all those. Of course, we had Brian in the comments while Daniel was answering, saying she got recasted. I think these are all very good answers. I like Daniel's answer, with Jade Cargill, because that could bring on a whole new set of opponents for her as well. So point for Daniel. And Luke hung in strong, I think, with Athena. That could be really good. She's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit, in my opinion. So we'll go a point for Luke here as well.
Now, my second answer is turning Orange Cassidy heel and putting him in a leather jacket and having Saraya speak for him all the time. And you make him TNT champion, and he carries the belts around in a backpack.
That was brilliant.
That was good.
Nothing is worse than bad.
Exactly, and that'll be all the new merch, Luke. I'm telling you, it'll just be
No, just
Zen is coming in with Julia Hart.
That's a good idea for. Hey, when you write, you're right, Mr. DDJ. Like that's a good shout.
Yeah. All right, JFE, you are going first on the last question here.
All right.
Ric Flair has posted on his Twitter that he will never retire. Is he and should he make an in-ring return?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had the chance to go to his last match, and I didn't go because I wasn't – I remember Flair from the 70s and the 80s, and it was – I didn't want to see him not be able to perform. But, I mean – if Keith Richards can animatronically be injected with cybernetics in order to perform for the Rolling Stones at the age of 175, I think Ric Flair can get the same injection, or they Disney him up like in the Pirates of the Caribbean, and he just runs around the ring, close hangs a couple of people, puts on a figure four, and that's it. You're out the door. Yeah, let him keep wrestling. I mean, if we're talking about if it's going to destroy his reputation and things like that, yeah, of course it's going to. It's going to tarnish his reputation. It's going to tarnish the history of Ric Flair with him wrestling at 98 years old. That geriatric fuck. I mean, it's just going to tarnish it. But at the same time, don't you kind of want to see Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard and Ric Flair in wheelchairs or in like scooters driving, riding up into the ring and in the recliners that move up and down so they can get in for the tag? I'd love to see that shit.
I can see Sammy Guevara now getting run down by Ric Flair and a rascal.
Little rascals. Damn it.
Luke, what do you think about Ric Flair here?
Clearly, JFB wants to start a wrestling federation in an old people's home.
Called Geriatric Fight Club.
Geriatric Fight Club.
Trademarked already. Already trademarked it.
The first rule of Geriatric Fight Club is never forget when medicine time is, and don't talk about I think he's out of his mind. Ric Flair is a legal bomb. I think there was what was said on Dark Side of the Ring, and the revelations after that it can't be swept aside anymore. Playing Right from Hell can't be swept aside. It was a joke for too long, and what that episode did, for whatever people have had their opinions on the episode, and this bit was missed out, and Tommy Dreamer went too far, and this wasn't said, this said, but Ric Flair did 30 for 30, and they knew all this and all that. Whatever you think of it, it has finally opened up conversations that should have happened 20 years ago. So to see Ric Flair come back for one final match, a monkey tag team match with Jeff Jarrett and Andrade, and he does not need to come back at all. I'll be honest, it still feels like a bit of a stunt. Obviously, he had the roast, and he was going out like he was king, but you're just distracting from what he was doing wrong. You still acting like everything's fine. Like it'd be the equivalent of Donald Trump was to go, I'm gonna have one more presidential run, and it's all gonna be paid with gold, and it's gonna be amazing. Like that's what you're telling yourself. Like nothing is wrong at all. This is perfectly fine. So no, I do not want to see Ric Flair back in the ring ever again, and I think he's still until the legal elements are done, and they find him not guilty, and everything is swept to one side, and we can close that chapter. Nobody should touch Ric Flair with a barge pole.
Daniel,
I don't know if I've gone too deep, but it has to be said.
I don't know if should's even the right question here, because we were going to go through wrestling with things that should and should not have happened, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we would have gotten Sting versus Undertaker, for example. We would have gotten a lot of things over time. So I don't know if should is the answer, but if Ric Flair is going to do this, it needs to be hilarious. It needs to be him in a bunch of tag matches where he just tags in at the end to pin people and go woo. Probably with somebody like Chris Jericho. Maybe you bring in Flair and Jericho to tag against Great Muta and Sting. Now that we've seen Muta the other night, I don't know. Should it happen? No, he needs to be done. Especially with, Luke's right. Like everything that we found out recently. Not that any of it I think is particularly surprising, but he also hasn't done his proper. Hey, look, I did a lot of weird things. In the past, I'm like, and whether that's in a super empty apology, like we still haven't even, gotten there yet. So I definitely don't think if he did come back, that he would go through AEW because I don't think Tony's too woke for that. So we'll.
He was lined up for AEW before Dark Side of the Ring aired. That's the thing. He was being
right.
Everything was nudging across to him to manage Andrade. That's how close he was to being in full-time thing. Yeah.
So, if he's going to, I don't know. He's already shown up in AAA.
Yeah.
Let him show up there again. Sure. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Versus Jeff Jarrett.
Why wouldn't you want to see a hurricane on a pole match, or like the winner gets the Geritol bottle, Like,
as long as there's a pole involved, I'm game.
There's
all right,
something exciting about it.
We'll get to a couple comments before we get to that. Brian, the comments from the Soraya one, extra point for Daniel. Dennis, my guy.
Also, totally about me.
Point for JFB. Brian says from his comment with Ric Flair. Also saying Luke is right isn't something we hear often. That's from Brian.
It's hard to admit when Luke's right, but when you're right, you're right.
All right. So points. I think we go JFP on this one. Daniel and Luke having pretty close answers. But I think Luke went just a little bit extra and gets the point.
Oh,
so we got a three-way tie here. So you all get to answer the last question. The best answer will be the one who moves on. Since Daniel had 4 first, Daniel, you'll have the option. You want to answer first, or who do you want to pick to answer first?
Luke goes first.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right. So we're going to stick to the strictly. Actually, we're going to go. You have 1 minute to answer your question. If you go over a minute, I will cut the mic off on these, just so we can keep time down. Let me get my timer up here. All right. Luke, 1 minute on the clock once I'm done reading the question. Kofi Kingston on Wrestle Rant podcast says live events have helped shape how the New Day developed. How can big companies make live non-televised events more appealing to the average fan?
So, what we've seen with AEW and the house always wins is redefining what the house show means in wrestling in general, because it's not just a boring tour where you see the same matches or the matches and nothing happens. What live events do need to mean more, but it's how that's incorporated. Now, what we're seeing at the moment is they need to have a bit more stake to it. I mean, obviously, advertising the card in advance, where I think last time WWE were over, we had Walter against Gunther against Sheamus, which absolutely tore the house so and everybody loved it. And then that obviously led to Clash of the Castle and gave us a great match. I think they have their place. NXT have a good one. AEW need to do more house shows. And ultimately, you need to be bringing in the next generation of talent and also having some fun celebrity spots so you can sell the tickets. There you go, done.
All right, good answer. Daniel, 1 minute on the clock. Go.
I think if you take these events and weave them into more professional sports events and, have an opportunity to have people that are calling football games and basketball games mention your product is one thing. Also, like say, for example, AEW could show maybe half of the matches you see on Dark could actually be featured on YouTube. So that way, when you're going there, you're like, okay, well, this isn't just wrestling, some kind of a practice round. This is going to be for television of some sort, even though it's not going to be on Rampage or Dynamite. Make the shows a little bit cheaper, have some merch specials when you get there, have some fun prizes, go super Nickelodeon with it, and have some kind of a mystery prize. And I don't know, slime the front row. I don't know where that came from.
Okay, Gallagher show.
It's nerve-wracking to have a minute. I see the clock the whole time. Gosh.
JFB, you've had the advantage. You've had the most time. 1 minute, go.
All right, here's how you do it. I'm going to channel Vince McMahon. Title changes. Change the title. Samoa Joe beating Finn Balor at a house show. Hulk Hogan, there have been title changes after title changes after title changes at house shows. Some were not recognized, some were. It doesn't matter. Make it worth the while to go see the possibility of your heavyweight champion losing. The other thing, meet and greets. Have the wrestlers, and this is for WWE, not just AEW. Have your big name wrestlers who may not be wrestling out there signing autographs, pressing the flash, hanging out with the fans, and allowing them to really get integrated and get invested. It's about investment. It's about getting the most bang for the buck. Title changes and interaction. JFB out.
All right.
So,
we got one comment to get to here.
Because he was injured. I'm just putting it out there.
Jeff, the other man in the championship match next week, 24-hour title change house shows. That one actually did change hands at a house show over the weekend. Yeah. We have Jeff in the comments. Diesel beating Beckman at a house show for the WWF title. Most iconic moment, I think.
8 seconds.
I wanted to say it, but I didn't want to stop JFP. He only had a minute.
And I agree. If you think you're going to a house show and there might be a title change, if it happens a couple times a year, that's going to make something worthwhile. I got to agree between that and the meet and greets. I think JFP is our winner here. He had something I think would bring the most value to it here.
He won. He did a good
Even
job.
though Joe lost the title because he had a medical change. So,
From behind.
Doesn't really count.
All right. So next week we will have in the championship match for the tournament champions, JFB, Dennis Day Jr. and Jeff Chadwick. Should be a really entertaining show. Thanks for watching tonight, everybody, and join us next week.